advertised as being the dessert. I'd actually like to give a bit of thought for food, not just food. Okay?
Food for thought.
No, I like it. I like to do it.
As we know, minhagim of Klal Yisrael have a major significance. And one of the minhagim, certainly in recent times, is that on Purim we eat oznei Haman, right? Which means Haman's ears. Okay? Now, I remember as a kid, there was a program, TV show called Star Trek, right? And Mr. Spock, yes, had the funny ears, okay? Remember that one, he says, there was a line there, he says, Mr. Spock says, wow, I don't believe my ears. He says that, I don't believe your ears either, Mr. Spock. Okay? But what reason do we have to think that Haman's ears were triangular, or certainly were they made in such a shape that everybody eats Haman's Oznei Haman, right? And they're triangular shaped. And what reason is there to believe that Haman's ears were shaped in such a manner? What is the significance of that? The ways that we should eat them on Purim, remembrance of Haman's ears. So let's a little bit understand what Haman was all about. The Gemara, well, first of all, let's get the point over here. This Shabbos we read Parshas Zochar. It's one of the 4 special parshas. What is Parshas Zochar about? To remember what Amalek did to the Jewish people when they left Egypt. Now, when did actually that happen, that Amalek attacked the Jewish people? It wasn't around this time of year, B'chlau. It was much closer to between Pesach and Shavuos. So why commemorate the union of what Amalek did to the Jewish people around this time of year? So the Mefarshim explain is because Haman was from the descendants of Amalek. Okay. Now, besides the fact that actually he was a physical descendant of Amalek, what connection is there between what Haman intended to do? Obviously he wanted to wipe out the Jewish people, and Amalek wanted to wipe out the Jewish people. But besides that, there are many other nations who wanted. Lavan wanted to wipe out Yaakov and his only family, and there have been unfortunately many people, many enemies throughout the ages who want to wipe out the Jewish people. What makes Haman unique in being the descendant of Amalek? Okay? The Gemara, in the end of Chulin, not much at the end of Chulin, the Gemara, one of the Gemara asks a few questions, similar questions, and one of them is, Haman min ha-Torah minayin. Where is their source, an indication of Haman from the Torah? Okay? So the Gemara answers with the pasuk which it says in Parshas Bereshis. As we know that first of all, Eve, Chava, ate from the Eitz Hadas. That Adam HaRishon was allowed to eat from all the trees of the Garden of Eden, except for one. And what happened was, through the auspices of the Nachash, of the serpent, right? He managed to convince Chava, Eve, to eat from the Eitz Hadas. And then afterwards, Eve convinced Adam also to eat from the Eitz Hadas. So after Adam HaRishon ate from the Eitz Hadas, he was allowed to eat of all the trees from the Garden of Eden, except for one. This tree, which was Eitz Hadas. We're going to explain this in a second what that means. Anyway, after Adam ate from the Eitz Hadas, HaKodesh Baruch Hu rebuked Adam. And he came and asked him a question, he says, Hamin ha'etz hadas asher amarti lecha lo soku mimenu ochalto. From that tree which I told you not to eat from, did you eat? Right? And the Gemara says, what are the words? Hamin ha'etz. They're the same words, same letters as the word Hamon, the name Hamon. So says the Gemara, Hamon is indicated in that word, Hamin ha'etz. Okay, fine. Maybe there's no other place in the Torah where it says those three letters together to say the word, to read the word Hamon as in that place. But fine. One place it says the name, he had the name Hamon, and here it says Hamin ha'etz. Did you eat from that tree? Otherwise, what's the connection? Where is it a indication, a hint at who Haman was? So it says Rav Aaron Kotler, Zechariah Bracha. He says a modic explanation. Rav Aaron Kotler, as we know, was the first founder of the Lakewood Yeshiva, one of the greatest Talmidei Chachamim of the Torah, and passed away in 1962. But in the period immediately after the war, he was one of the major leaders of the Jewish people. Anyway, he explains as follows. What was HaKodesh Baruch Hu rebuking Adam about when he said, Hamin ha'etz, did you eat from that tree which I told you not to? So he says a Meridic Pshat. Adam Arishan was allowed to eat from anything he wanted, except for one tree. Except for one tree, that's it. Everything, I don't know how many different species of trees there are, different plants, everything. Hundreds, maybe thousands of different ones. One tree you're not allowed to eat from. What happened to Adam? He couldn't control himself. In that degree of what he was allowed to eat, what he was allowed to eat, Adam Arishan, through the pressure of the Nachash, who was the epitome of the Yetzer Hara in an external form, because before Adam Arishan sinned, he didn't have an internal Yetzer Hara. There was only an external Yetzer Hara, and that was represented by the serpent, by the Nachash. So came along the Nachash, and he convinced Adam and Chava to go and eat from that tree. So what did he say? He told them, he says, there's nothing wrong. You know why HaKodesh Baruch Hu told you not to eat? Because HaKodesh Baruch Hu doesn't want you to be like him. Because if you eat from the Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge, you'll be exactly like God. You have the same powers as God. But basically what he meant, the Nachash intention was to give Adam a taiva, a desire to eat from that tree. Because technically he should have had no desire. He had everything he wanted. All the trees in the Garden of Eden, all the trees in the world. So why should he want to go and eat from that tree? So they came to Nachash and he aroused in Adam a desire to want to eat from that tree. So basically says Aaron Kotler, even though Adam Arishan had the opportunity to eat from every single tree in the world, nevertheless, Adam couldn't control his desire. Even though HaKodesh Baruch Hu had told him, you mustn't eat from that tree, Adam Arishan couldn't control that desire, and he immediately said, no, I have to have everything. If there is one tree that is forbidden for me, no, I can't keep myself back. Everything's permitted. One tree's forbidden, Adam Arishan couldn't hold himself back. He couldn't control his desire and passion to eat from that tree. Says Aaron Kotler, in the same way as Adam Arishan had that, should we say, desire with regard to taiva, with regard to desire, passion to eat, to have worldly pleasures, Haman similarly also had an uncontrollable desire, but not for worldly pleasures. What was his desire? Gaiva. Covered. He wanted honor. Where do we see that? We know that after Achashverosh appointed Haman to be his prime minister, his most premier officer of the kingdom, So what did Haman do? He said, everybody has to bow down to me. Everybody in Achashverosh's kingdom. And if you have to realize, at the time Achashverosh was more than just superpower. He ruled over 127 Medinas, and according to some opinion, that was the entire civilized world at the time. So, if everybody in Achashverosh's kingdom has to bow down to Haman, that pretty much means everybody. Everybody in the world was bowing down to Haman. Who didn't? One little Yidler. One Jew. Mordechai Tzaddik. Mordechai said, I'm not going to bow down to him. And what does Haman say? You know, he's got everybody, millions and millions of people bowing down to him. But one Yidler doesn't bow down to him. V'chol zeh einenu shoveli. The whole thing is not worth a penny. Millions and millions of people are bowing down to me. No, but one little Yidler, one Jew is not bowing down. I need everybody to bow down to me. If one Jew doesn't bow down to me, that's not enough. So in the same way as Adam HaRishon had in the middle of taiva, of passion, of lust, to eat for whatever he needed to have, eat from everything, similarly Haman needed to have everybody give him honor. Everybody needed to bow down to him. So that's in the Gemara. Hamin ha'etz. The same concept that Adam had, everybody, he needed to have all the desires, all the lusts of the world, all the passions of the world. Similarly, Haman needed everybody, he needed all the honor in the world. And who was depriving of that honor? Mordechai. And that's why he says, the whole thing's nothing but millions of people bowing down to me is not enough. I need everybody bowing down to me. In Hebrew, a person's ears, right, are called oznai. Okay? Now there's a similar word, which in Hebrew, which is a word for scales. What's that called? Moznai. The Maharal says this is me oznai. A person's balance is known physically. If a person loses his power of hearing, he loses his balance as well. His power of balance. So if somebody has an ear infection or something like that, his balance goes off as well. Depending obviously what kind of infection it is. But that thing, the person is known as the person's balance is in his ears. So it's obviously not just physically, but conceptually as well. What does that mean? If I want to have a balanced opinion, that means I have my opinion. But how do I work it out? I have to hear both sides of the story. I hear from him, I hear from him, I hear from everybody what their different opinions, and I collect everybody's opinion, and I weigh it up in my own mind, and this way I can have a balanced opinion. But if I'm not willing to listen to anybody, that means my opinion is my opinion. So the way of a Baal Gaiva is his ears, right, are not willing to listen to anybody. I alone is the one who decides what I'm going to think and what I'm going to do. That is the way of a Baal Gaiva, somebody who's haughty. So Haman, who had that midah of Gaiva, right, his ears were stopped up and closed up. Now, stopped, and vermacht, right? We say in Yiddish, was stopped up and closed up. Now, Matt will tell you, and any good culinary expert, is how do you make your hamantaschen? It's not particularly, there may be a significance of the three-cornered part as well. But the main idea, actually, my wife's grandmother, Leah Sholem, used to make, there was actually Yekim minhag to make Haman's orn, which is actually the Yiddish. Hamantaschen means Haman's pockets. Right? There's also behind that as well. You see, it's a similar concept. We don't have time, doesn't really allow us to explain that. But we had a Haman's orn, so it's like a fried, 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 it's like pastry filled also filled, but they named the same idea. It was actually four-cornered, but the same idea. You filled up the pastry and you closed it up. The idea is that Haman's ears were stopped up and closed up. He wasn't willing to listen to anybody. So that's why we have a Haman Tashi, right? Ozne Haman, Haman's ears. Okay? The idea is that Haman, and this was his whole essence. Similarly, Amalek was the same idea. What was Amalek get from the fact that he fought Klal Yisrael, he attacked Klal Yisrael? L'chayre, he got beaten good. Right? But Rashi explains in Parshas Zohar, in the Psukim, in Parshas Kisotzi, it says, what was the achievement of Amalek? It says, Asher kol cho baderech. So he says, now the number of explanations. One Rashi says it means he chanced upon him. But the other explanation Rashi brings from the Midrash means, Asher kol cho means kar. What does kar mean? Cold. Asher kol cho baderech means he cooled you off. What does that mean? So Rashi says a marshal. Ben Belial, somebody a no good nick. Good for nothing. Right? What does he do? There's a boiling hot bath. Everybody wants to think, oh, a geschmacka bath, think about it. Comes Erev Shabbos, come to the geschmacka mikveh. So what did this Ben Belial do? He says, I'm going to mess it up for everybody. He jumps into the mikveh and he cools it off. He gets burnt. Right? But the mikveh's cooled off. Okay? Says, so what's the idea? That Amalek, when the Jewish people came out of Mitzrayim, says, Obnei Yisrael yotzim b'yod Roma, came up with a high hand, which means, doesn't mean a high hand, means they were top nation. Everybody was tittering, everybody was trembling from Klal Yisrael. Tittering from Klal Yisrael. Shabbat min yagazim l'chila ochaz yeshu v'loshes. Oz nebalu alafei eden. Ile mov yochazim v'roat. No moigu kol yesh v'kanoah. Tipal aleim imosov v'fachar b'gdol zerach hayidim v'ka'obet. As we say in the Shira. Everybody was afraid of Klal Yisrael. They were the untouchables. Top nation. Why was that? Because HaKodesh Baruch Hu had done nisim for them. They were representing, everybody recognized that the Jewish people are the Am Hashem, the representatives of God. The God, they're the chosen people. Amalek says, I can't take such a thing. I can't take that the rule of God should rule in this world. That means if God is ruling, means I'm not. I have just as much as power as God, said Amalek. So they came along and they said, we're going to bash down this tremendous level of greatness which the Jewish people have. We're going to prove, you think the Jewish people, they are untouchables? We're going to attack them. True, they got beaten, but they managed to attack Klal Yisrael. They managed to have an effect on Klal Yisrael. So that's why you can understand, why does HaKodesh Baruch Hu, it says in the Parshas, he actually said in Parshas, the end of Parshas B'Shalach, where actually the Amalek attacked Klal Yisrael, it says HaKodesh Baruch Hu is Milchama L'Hashem B'Amalek Midor Dor, for all generations. Why does HaKodesh Baruch Hu have a particular hatred and a particular bone to pick with Amalek more than any other nation who attacked Klal Yisrael? The answer is, Amalek were the first ones to attack. They were the ones who blew the bubble, shall we say, popped the bubble. This Klal Yisrael had a tremendous level of greatness and a tremendous level of honor, which Amalek says, I'm going to pop that bubble. I'm going to make sure that not everybody thinks the Jewish people are untouchable. And Haman followed suit. That's where Haman followed suit. That's where he also attacked the Jewish people with the same idea. I cannot stand the Jews. Why? Because they're representative of God's sovereignty. And that's why we read the Parsha Zohar just now before Purim. Because Amalek and Haman followed the doctrine of his ancestor Amalek. We've got to attack the Jews. We've got to beat the Jews. And in subsequent calculations actually it says Hitler Yamach Shemon. Right? Why did he attack? What was his thing? Somebody told me, I haven't seen it myself, that Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf, he says, you know why I hate the Jews? Why do I hate the Jews? Because they are representative of God, God's sovereignty in the world, and particularly that they preach kindness. They preach kindness. They are representative of God's doctrine of kindness in the world. Whereas the Aryan principle was survival of the fittest, meaning no kindness whatsoever, similar to Sodom. Sodom was also the same idea. Therefore, all the our major enemies, our major persecutors, all came with the same doctrine. You cannot have the Jews ruling the world. But it wasn't just mean the Jews ruling the world because of sovereignty. It's the Jewish doctrine, the Torah, the principles of the Torah. That's what we're fighting against. Bez Hashem, should be zocher to eat our Haman tashim and enjoy them, but take the message from it. Right? Haman's ears were stuffed, but each of us should humble ourselves, listen to each other, be united with all each other, and Bez Hashem, if we're all united just in the time of Purim, we're all united, we are zocher to HaKodesh Baruch Hu's salvation, so to Bez Hashem B'Korov, we're going to the Lias Gel Tzedek, maybe Amen.
Amen.